Hi foodie friends, Jessica here with Savory Experiments, and today we are making a classic holiday recipe, vanilla fudge. I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks so that you don't mess up your fudge, and a couple of fun fudge facts. Say that 3 times straight. But before we get started, let's go ahead and make sure you follow, like, and comment on our YouTube channel so you don't miss any delicious recipes coming out every single Wednesday. So fudge making. Fudge making is very much a science and very much baking, which is probably why I don't do it often. We all know that I am a lazy baker. But there are a few things that you can have in your back pocket to make sure that you have foolproof fudge each and every time. The first thing is a candy thermometer. People email me all the time and they're like, it didn't work, it was too gritty, it didn't set. Having a candy thermometer is paramount in making fudge because you need it to get to 240 degrees Fahrenheit. That is what's called the softball stage of candy making. It gives the mixture enough time for liquid to evaporate out of it so that when you do put the fudge in the fridge, it sets properly. But if you go too high, you could scald or burn the mixture, or too much moisture comes out, and then you're just gonna have a brick. No one wants a brick. We all want smooth fudge that doesn't have a gritty sugar taste. The other fun fact is that fudge generally doesn't have to have chocolate in it. We all associate it with chocolate because the most popular flavor is chocolate. Today we are making vanilla, and I do use some white chocolate in it, but in all honesty, you don't have to. So let's get started. The first thing you need is a super heavy bottom saucepan. This is gonna spend a good amount of time on the heat, and a heavy bottom is gonna help the heat distribute so that you don't get any scalding in the mixture. There's a good period of time here that we're not even going to stir it, so you really need that good sturdy pan, not something like a flimsy aluminum. I have 2.5 cups of white sugar, 1/2 cup of white chocolate chips. So white chocolate is not actually made from cocoa. You guys probably know that. But there is another thing called almond bark, and almond bark is even less chocolate than white chocolate is. It is a candy flavored something or another, and it doesn't really go well in fudge. So if you're gonna put chocolate in your fudge, make sure you get real white chocolate. Chocolate chips or in a bar, the baking chocolate, all of that's fine, just don't get the candy coating, not real chocolate. We have 1.5 cups of heavy cream. At the most basic, fudge is literally just sugar and cream. That's it. Ours has a few more elements to it just to make it a little bit better, a little bit smoother, and a little bit fudgier. Okay, we've got our chocolate chips or white chocolate, and now I'm gonna do some light corn syrup. I'm gonna teach you guys a trick. Anything that's sticky, so this goes for agave nectar, honey, and light corn syrup, use a little bit of cooking spray in the cup here, and then pour it on in, and it won't stick to the sides, and you'll get a perfect measure every single time. This is 1/4 cup of light corn syrup. Do you see how well that came out? This measuring cup is basically empty, perfect measure. And 1/2 teaspoon of coarse kosher salt. Salt in fudge? Yes, salt everywhere. In my world, we love salt. But salt in fudge is gonna help bring out the natural flavors and balance all the sweetness. 2.5 cups of sugar and all that white chocolate is certainly sweet. Okay, mix that together, and right now you're gonna have a sandy mixture that is perfectly fine and perfectly normal. As this heats up, the sugar is gonna melt and dissolve, and so are the chocolate chips. Do it gently so you don't bunch up your candy thermometer over here. Keep on stirring. The time it takes for everything to get hot is going to vary from stove to stove. Mine usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes before the chocolate starts to melt and the sugar starts to dissolve. And then I'm gonna increase the heat even more to a very low simmer, not a full boil. Remember that this mixture is made out of dairy and sugar. And what happens if you stop looking at dairy and sugar? It boils over. And it is a mess that nobody wants to clean up, especially around the holidays. So keep it low. You want some bubbles because it needs to have the liquid evaporate out, but you don't want it to go too high either because it will bubble over and burn and scald super fast. So while this part is pretty hands off, you need to have your eyes on. I'm gonna give it a minute to melt. the softball stage. We're at 240, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the heat. This has gone from a milky white to a little bit more of a beigey cream, and that is fine. If you want a perfectly snow white fudge, it's gonna be a little bit grittier, and you can remove it right before the softball stage. It'll also be a little softer. So when it hits this, let it go for about 1 minute. Don't stir it, don't touch it, let it build that caramely color, and then transfer it to a heat-proof bowl. So either metal or glass. Heat-proof just meaning I don't want it to shatter and plastic will melt. And put it on a wire rack. This wire rack is going to allow all of the air to circulate around the bowl so that it can cool evenly before you put it into your fudge dish. Okay, we have hit the softball stage of fudge making. So it's bubbling, we've turned it off. It's gonna go from being a milky white to more of a caramel beigey cream. And it's at that point you want to transfer it to the bowl. Use a heat-proof bowl, something metal or glass, just meaning no plastic, it will melt, and put it onto a wire rack. The wire rack is gonna let air circulate below the bowl so that it can cool before you put it in your fudge dish. You're very carefully pouring this hot fudge. It's hot sugar. Hot sugar will burn you into the bowl. I don't use a spatula to make sure that it all gets out of the saucepan because sometimes there's a little bit on the bottom that gets a little scalded, and you don't want that in your actual fudge that you're serving to, nails on a chalkboard, that you're serving to friends and family. Okay, so the last little bit here, we're gonna whisk in 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. This gives it a rich, creamy texture that everybody's looking for in fudge. And this is what makes mine so special. We are using vanilla bean paste. Vanilla bean paste is a little bit thicker than traditional vanilla because it is a paste. It's almost like a syrup. And 2 teaspoons that was. It also has what's called the vanilla caviar, which is the little specks. Do you see that? It's bubbling. Just like if you're making caramel, when you put in the butter, it's gonna spit a little bit, totally normal, the bubble and the spitting. Whisk it right on in until you see the butter and the vanilla bean paste whisk on it. So back to vanilla bean paste. It has a more robust vanilla flavor, so you could certainly go ahead and use a vanilla extract, but using the paste gives you these nice little flecks. Those are called the vanilla bean caviar. They're the little specks that you see in real vanilla bean ice cream, and they pack a ton of flavor. And that guarantees that it came from a real vanilla bean instead of what's called a spent vanilla bean, meaning that the caviar was removed and then the actual bean pod was boiled in a little bit of alcohol to make an extract. And it's also not obviously an imitation. Okay, all of that is in. I am gonna let this sit for just 5 to 10 minutes. Let it cool just a tad, let that air circulate around it before I put it into our bowl that we're gonna let the fudge set in. The fudge has cooled a little bit. It's still super hot, so make sure you don't touch your fingers to it. And as you can see, it's starting to even form a little bit of a film on the top there. Just go ahead and stir that in, it's perfectly fine. I have a dish here that is lined with parchment, and that is gonna prevent it from sticking. If you don't have parchment paper, you'll want to use some butter in the bowl to make sure that it doesn't stick to the glass or the metal. This time you can use a spatula to get everything on out of that bowl. It's already starting to thicken, so I need a little bit of assistance from the spatula. Okay, all in. It's still soft enough that I don't need to use like an offset spatula to even it out. Do this, tap it a few times. Okay, and now I am going to put this in the refrigerator. So this dish, I need to take some measurements on it, is gonna produce about 1 inch tall worth of fudge. If you want super thin fudge or shaved fudge, you'll wanna use a 9x9 pan. And if you want thicker fudge, you can actually double the recipe and still use a 9x9 pan, or just use a smaller casserole dish. This one's probably, say 4 times 8 inches. Okay, put this into the refrigerator. I'm gonna cover it with some aluminum foil for at least 4 hours, but I really suggest overnight to let it set before we take it out and chop it into squares. Okay, your fudge is all set. You use that parchment paper like a sling, See how easy that came out? Peel it. Got a little bit of a ribbon on here, which means that's the perfect taste test. Right on. Melts in your mouth. There's nothing like it. And that robust vanilla flavor. Oh, just perfect. Okay, so it should easily cut with a sharp knife. I did let this temper for about 10 minutes at room temperature. You can also put your knife underneath hot water to get really clean cuts. If you're gonna be putting these in like a cookie basket or something and you want nice little squares. That is some of the best fudge I've ever tasted. And fudge is a little bit too sweet for me usually, but man, that's good. Look at those nice little fudgy nuggets. Just perfect. Okay, from my kitchen to yours, happy holidays.